Love is a high-risk behavior. In my many years of life, like you, I have encountered a fair share of heartbreak in my relationships. Familial relationships function as a sort of given because a great majority of us do not choose our family members. We traverse the growing pains of getting to do life with family who is already there, and that tightness, or in many cases, distance, can be a recipe for some real character building. Some of those experiences are sweet, and some of them are bitter. But for a lot of people, those experiences are later excused as an accepted part of life because it's quite hard to change something you didn't elect to be a part of in the first place. Even when family is horrible, we hopefully heal to a place of wisdom and acceptance about it. And that's just the way that they are, is probably a thought that you might have had when it comes to your family, which is an admission of your defeat to try to imagine, try to coerce, or force any more change on them. You just accept them and either continue a life with them or elect to see them lesser holidays and family functions, eventually paring down to phone calls and texts here and there, or maybe nothing at all. Hopefully, if you are still in that space of reckoning, God is granting you the serenity to accept the things that you cannot change, the courage to change the things that you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Perhaps instead of family, you're thinking about your friendships. You've had countless experiences with people coming and going. And the difference is that you got to exercise your discernment, evaluating if they were good people to know, to share, and to do life with. And in many cases, those friends of ours became our elected family, some close and others closer. Friends are a gift from God, sometimes sticking closer than a brother. They know our deepest of secrets and our mistakes and achievements. They help us through our family issues, career issues, and even issues with other friends. Our friends are some of the most valuable relationships we can have, and because of that, they have a great capacity to break our hearts. Unlike family, though, we're less likely to recite that serenity prayer for them because we realize with their ways of being, we don't have to put up with it. Then comes the romantic relationships. Now, this one I have spoken about before many times about how this type of relationship has a capacity to break you in a very specific way. Similar to our friendships, romantic relationships maintain a level of closeness that no one else is privy of. Our romantic partners experience a different extension of love and vulnerability from us, specifically reserved for them. They ideally build a future with us, together in covenant, making multiples with us, building businesses, enterprises, legacies, and wealth with us. Our romantic partner is the one relationship that we as women will elect to change our bodies for through childbirth. And generally speaking, romantic relationships house an entire add-on of type of access to our life, our soul, and our spirit. They have access to us that no one else will have access to. And I think that this is the most idolized relationship, and I really need to do a podcast on this and my thoughts with that. I think this is definitely the most idolized relationship, and this is the expression of how we are treated and have been treated in all of our other relationships. But of course, I don't have data on that. Welcome to the podcast, High Risk for Heartbreak. I am your host, Christina, and I'm so glad you decided to join me today. If you are new here, I pray you find value in at least one thing I say today. And to my old and faithful returning crew, you know just how much I appreciate you. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and help me get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And also, if you like this particular episode, let me know by hitting the thumbs up button to help keep me informed about how to better tailor this channel for you. Heartbreak can be a small occurrence, a small breach of trust, and expectations that you might have with another person. And yes, I know I always talk about the negative side of that, so we're going to do something a little different today. Seldom do we look at the bright side of heartbreak or even believe that there can be one, especially in the midst of the healing process. But it's only when we come through that storm fully are we able to really appreciate the cooling of the air, the greening of the foliage, and the cleansing that the earth's storms bring. I was walking my dog the other day after a very short afternoon storm. I've always loved how these storms can kind of just rip through a place quickly and the sun comes out afterward like nothing ever happened. You might notice the remnants of the carnage done while looking on the ground, but if you look up at the sky, the almighty artist himself painted the sky to reflect what was really hiding above those brooding clouds. On our walk, I noticed a lot of dead branches and tree debris and stuff like that on the ground. And I thought, wow, all of those branches before the storm looked healthy. They looked like they belonged, like they were supposed to be part of the trees forever. But they were actually dead. And it took a storm to break them off from their life source, the tree. It's Earth's natural way of healing by releasing the dead ends. It was in that moment that the sun shined differently, and I was able to appreciate the brightness all around me. That is what comes when you reach the bright side of heartbreak, a permanent detachment from the things that were deadened about you. It took a storm to rip through and help you release some things. And while this week's episode, of course, is not about storms or trees, it is about healing from heartbreak and your perspective that you get from it. Also, the new depth that you acquire in your ability to love, the wisdom that you gain through the unfortunate circumstance of your heartbreak, and the light that you get on your face, your countenance changes, and how the breaking of your heart can sort of clean up your soul in the most meaningful way. So let's talk about the bright side of heartbreak. Let's relate. I think with every upset, every heartbreak, every quick pivot in my life that has caused disruption to me in some way or another, there has been a friend or a family member there to tell me, Christina, look on the bright side. Those types encourage that things won't always hurt this much and that it will become better. They offer advice to help you see the forest from the trees and hopefully add some levity into the otherwise highly serious time in your life. In that exact moment, it is often hard to see the brightness on the horizon. It's hard to relate to someone who hasn't carried what you've carried or who isn't currently carrying the same level of woundedness as you. But I assure you, as they assured you, there is a bright side to heartbreak, and truly the only way to it is through it. I want to share with you 3 ways that I made it through my last breakup to the bright side. This is very quick. It's pithy, you guys. Let's get into it. Number 1, you got to sit in it and don't avoid reality. The reality of heartbreak can be a very hard thing to tackle, especially coming from a long-term relationship. And something that my therapist taught me when I was at the very beginning of my heartbreak journey, my last heartbreak journey or heartbreak to healing journey, should I say, was to be in it. Be in it. Don't try to be anywhere else but where you are. There were a couple of triggers that I developed as a result of my heartbreak, and one of them was his phone going off, surprisingly. So I'm going to tell you a quick little story. The way that my last relationship ended, I received information via my phone. Okay? Just some context there. My ex used to always leave his sound on his phone. And listen, it's his prerogative. I haven't had my sound on probably since 2012. That's just how I roll. I don't even have it on vibrate. It's on silent always. But that's just what I prefer. I don't even wake up to sound. I wake up to vibration because I like things quiet. Nonetheless, he was the type that had his notifications on. So I would hear dinging and sounds all day long, and it never bothered me until after I found out what I found out. And there was a relationship between my heartbreak and his phone, right? Because things were being hidden in his phone. And then I began to kind of put things together as I looked back and reflected back on our relationship and how he always had his phone so close to him in the bathroom and everywhere, right? So there was a day when his phone was going off after the heartbreak, and I became very triggered by the sound of the emails or whatever was coming through on his phone and him picking up his phone and talking on the phone. So my solution during this time was to drown out the noise with music. So I wore my headphones non-stop so that I didn't have to hear his phone going off or hear the conversations that he was having. And my therapist taught me how to ground my nervous system, right? How to bring myself back to zero when this trigger came over me. And the first time I did it, it felt like I was inducing a panic attack on myself. Like, it was crazy. But as I went through it, that exposure and sitting in it for the few moments that I did worked literally like a miracle. One time was all that it took, and it never happened again. So what I did in this moment is he told me to sit and listen. Christina, don't put on your headphones. I want you to sit and listen. So I did. I sat on my floor, crisscross applesauce in that piece, okay? And I listened. And I was in tears. I remember shaking. I literally was having a physical, bodily, visceral reaction to hearing his phone going off, him texting, him picking up the phone, talking. Oh, it was like a whole bunch of things all at once. My response was crazy. Never had I ever responded to a phone like this, but that's what trauma can do. That's what heartbreak can do, right? Running from the pain, though, only prolongs that process of healing. So that's why my therapist told me to sit in it. And you may be able, of course, to evade for a little bit, but like grief, heartache will sneak up on you if you don't address it. So you need to address it before it comes when you least expect it. I read a psychology study on healing from grief and how to help kind of confront death or heartbreaks. And what it said is that looking at old memories and facing them, allowing your emotions to just flow from whatever comes from seeing that, is what you should do. That is actually healthier than avoiding it, right? So oftentimes we burn the pictures, we throw out the items, we don't smell the items, we don't spend time with items to release them. You will actually be able to heal better, more fully, if you were to face those items and recognize what they meant to you. Now, I didn't know that notification sounds would become a trigger for me. Looking back, right? It's crazy to think that. It never was before, right? Before this heartbreak, but I thank God for my therapist's suggestions. He saved me from a lifetime of unnecessary triggering by someone who had nothing to do with my last heartbreak. And it was in the facing of the thing, confronting that thing head on, that helped bring me through that. He made it a point to say that you don't want to be in your next relationship, Christina, holding your partner accountable for wrongs that they didn't commit. And I'll add to that and say, and the new partner also can't right those wrongs. I say this so often. Healing from heartbreak is your responsibility, and it is something that you should plan for. In fact, add these tips into your healing from heartbreak plan and help yourself by sitting in it. Not forever, because addressing your heartbreak won't actually allow you to wallow in it forever. But I've learned if you do, you need to take some time. You need to sit in it. You need to be with it. And please do not avoid it. This segues perfectly into the next one. Number 2, accept that healing your heartache is your responsibility. Now, your heartbreak wasn't your responsibility, but your healing is. You may not have been the direct cause of your heartbreak, but waiting on the breaker to mend your heart is a dangerous game to play. I don't want to conflate too many things, but waiting for closure, not being able to heal and move on without an apology, wishing and praying for their downfall, seeking revenge, are all ways that we are prolonging our healing by trying to transfer the responsibility to fix it on the one who broke it in the first place. Make it make sense. They can't fix it. Just like change, no one can change for you. They can only inspire change in you. So no one can heal for you. They can only inspire you to heal. It is your cross to bear, and you should expect that cross if you are in any type of long-standing intimate relationship, because heartbreaks, like I said, can be paper cuts, they can be small, or they can be big, they can be compound, right? Heartbreaks, all of that stuff comes with long-term relationships. People are going to people, and people are never perfectly people in. So we need to expect that there are going to be bumps and bruises along the way in our long-term relationships. And that means that we need to have a plan. So go to people, go to hobbies, prayer systems, right? Create processes to help heal your heart, help you get through your hurt. One thing I started doing maybe a couple of years ago when I felt like someone wronged me or said something to me out of turn and it hurt my feelings was to take it to the Lord first in prayer. And I know this sounds super spiritual. I do not mean for it to, but honestly, take it to God first. What I found is if I laid my burden on the Lord and I asked him if I was right in my feelings and my thoughts, because we know that the heart can be deceitful, right? The heart can be deceitful. I would ask God how to approach them if I needed to approach them, and he would either quell my spirit on the matter and I would get better. helping me to just move on from it, because some battles are not even worth fighting, right? Or it would stay on me in my spirit. It would not even be an emotional thing for me. Now it's just something that needs to be addressed. And I would address that offense and the emotional hurt if I needed to address at the same time. Not everyone, of course, is going to like this, because some people just need to fight, right? They got to fight for everything. And I realize that we all have our things and our reasons, and some of us have been fighting all of our lives, but everything doesn't have to be that. Everything don't have to be that. You then learn that there are textures. You learn that there's textures and levels to your heartbreak, and God is the ultimate healer for all of them. Some of them do need to be addressed in both ways, like I said, but some of them don't need to be addressed at all. That is you accepting your responsibility for your heartache, taking care of you. Number 3, reframe your mind about what you have been through. Now, this one is easier said than done. Reframing a circumstance that has already occurred is a little bit hard, specifically one that hurt you. It can be tricky, right? It can be against your feelings and kind of feel like it's against your nature when you start to try to reframe your mind from that place. It will feel like you're lying to yourself if you try to reframe your mind of your past woes and there's still some residual effects emotionally, right? So you're still in your emotions about it. And this is why the step follows the first two. You have to actually process your hurt, which is the emotional attachment to the thing that happened to you, before you can soberly reason it. And what I mean is that emotion attached to a heartbreak wound has varying stages of rawness, of course, as we know it. The initial blow is all about getting yourself to safety. And then after that, you're analyzing the damage, which is this flood of emotion, right? That is going to be attached to this kind of drastic change that just happened to you. You realize I am wounded, right? That is a very emotional thing. Next, you're going to calm down. And that is the prime space to be in to begin to reframe your mind about what happened and what did not happen. When you move past how terrible your pain is, you get to kind of see how important your healing actually is. And to do this, you have to sit, you have to accept, and then you have to start to reframe, but only when you're ready. For me, this looked like 6 months, maybe more, 6 or 8 months of deep guttural crying, okay? A lot of weight loss, accepting, crying again, negotiating, crying again, and then giving up the idea that while time is changing, maybe I don't have to. Give that up. You have to change. If you're going to move forward, if you're going to see the bright side and heal, you're going to actually have to change. You can't stay there. I had to reason and relinquish those thoughts that things will be the same. They'll never be the same again. And it's a very dark place to really make that realization with yourself, to really reason about what happened. Acceptance can be very dark after a real blow that has caused grief to you. I really feel like this is where the true work actually began for me, because I wasn't hiding the truth anymore. I wasn't hiding the truth anymore by allowing my emotions to maintain the driver's seat. I was fully ready to drive myself, with God, of course, as my GPS, because where I thought I was going, my heartbreak helped me realize was no more. A friend of mine mentioned how often we forget that God is in the dark places too. This is the moment that you will need to understand that God is everywhere, and He promised you to never leave nor forsake you. And that includes in these dark places of your heart and your mind after heartbreak. Reframing doesn't consist only of positively reinforcing what's good and left over from the wreckage of your heartbreak, but also it's actually rebuilding your heart to be set for the future. Philippians 4:8 says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about those things." The thing that we must remember is how we process those dark seasons of heartache in our lives determines how we handle others in our relationships, and furthermore, how we handle ourselves. Like the storm whipping through our lives, heartbreak will bring a bit of carnage, a bit of debris. But once you make it through the other side of that storm, what is revealed above those brooding and unrelenting clouds of chaos is pure light. It's possibility. It's redemption. It's hope. It's assurance that the storm is over now. To those of you who are currently in the midst of the storm, unable to see through the pelting blankets of rain and wind, and you can match your emotions to that volatility, I want to say this to you. Starting at step 1 is the only thing that you need to do right now. Sit in it. Storms aren't stagnant. They move across the face of the earth. They have movement. So if you're feeling stuck in your emotions after sitting it, you're letting them toss you to and fro like a fallen leaf, you may want to try just relinquishing a bit of control about how you feel. A lot of us try to control it. We don't want to feel all of it. It's too painful. We use vices. We don't do it soberly. We try to bury it under another. Relinquish it. Relinquish your modes of control and sit in it. Before long, you will notice that the storm of emotion that you felt was a production of your heart and mind. In that moment only. But that doesn't serve you. Not in this moment. Not in this moment where danger is actually no longer residing. You can't be overcome by the storm, but you can be stagnated by the carnage it left behind. And it's time to see it, to feel it, to sit in it, not alone, but with God, and let Him begin to process the unfolding of the hurtful layers of your old reality. It's dark. I know. But trust me, you are not alone. You are not alone. Take it from someone who has experienced a fair amount of dark moments. There is light above those clouds. There's clearing. There's clearing. I want to thank you so much for choosing to love yourself first. You chose to love yourself today. Thank you. Now you can go and love your neighbor. Until next time. Why don't you stay a little longer? You like what you like, right? Subscribe to the channel so we can spend a little more time together, and maybe comment your thoughts because I care what you're thinking. Love is the risk and the reward.